Shalom, I'm Eddie Chumney of Hebraic Heritage Ministries, and we welcome you to this week's Focus Israel Report. In this week's report, we're going to be sharing with you details regarding the framework agreement between the major world powers and Iran regarding their nuclear program. And it is as follows. The United States, along with Britain, France, Germany, Russia, and China, announced a framework agreement with Iran regarding its nuclear program, with the goal of reaching a detailed, comprehensive agreement by June the 30th. The deal will limit Iran's nuclear program and will provide Iran with relief from economic sanctions that have crippled its economy for the past decade. U.S. President Barack Obama said, "The United States, together with our allies and partners, have reached an historic understanding with Iran, which, if fully implemented, will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon." Obama called the deal historic and said that, if fully implemented, it would prevent Iran attaining the bomb and would render the United States, its allies, and the world safer. Obama said, "We have achieved the framework for a long-term deal. A framework that would cut off every path that Iran could take to the bomb, including the toughest inspections ever negotiated," he said. He said the terms of the deal first closed off Iran's plutonium route to the bomb. The core of the Hebraic reactor will be dismantled, he said. Second, the uranium route would be closed with 2/3 of Iran's centrifuges no longer to be used, no enrichment at the Fordo nuclear plant facility, and no use of advanced centrifuges for at least 10 years. Most of Iran's existing stocks of enriched uranium would be neutralized. Third, as the best defense against a covert Iranian effort to obtain a nuclear bomb, it would be subject to unprecedented inspection. "If Iran cheats, the world will know it," Obama said. "If we see something suspicious, we will inspect it. This is a good deal." If it fully complies with the deal, Iran could rejoin the family of nations, the president said, stressing again that the deal has yet to be finalized. Obama reiterated that Iran will never be permitted to develop a nuclear weapon. He said the deal provides for phased sanction relief, but that if Iran violates the deal, sanctions can be snapped back into place. Obama added, "The issues at stake here are bigger than politics. These are matters of war and peace, and they should be evaluated based on the facts." The president called the agreement a good deal, a deal that meets our core objectives. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said that the deal has no sunset clause. Some of its components would be enforced for 10 years, others for 15, and still others for indefinite periods. If implemented, Kerry added, Iran's current 2-month potential breakout time to achieve a nuclear weapon would now be at least a year. In his apparent jab at Netanyahu, Kerry added, "Simply demanding that Iran capitulate makes a nice soundbite, but it's not policy." Kerry continued, "Throughout negotiation, we have made a diligent effort to consult with our allies and partners," Kerry said, mentioning Israel and the Gulf states specifically. The Secretary of State said that the preliminary deal opened the door to a long-term solution that would ultimately satisfy the international community's concerns about Iran's nuclear program. "There could be no question that the comprehensive plan we are moving toward will more than pass this test," he said. He said that Iran has agreed to reduce its centrifuges by 2/3, from approximately 19,000 to an allowed 6,104 installed under the deal. Of those, 5,060 will be allowed to enrich uranium for the next 10 years. Iran has also agreed to cap its uranium enrichment at 3.67% for at least 15 years, and will not build any additional facilities for the purpose of enriching uranium during this time. Iran, whose breakout time for acquiring enough fissile material for one weapon is currently assessed to be 2 to 3 months, will be extended to at least 1 year for the next 10 years. Kerry said that Iran has agreed not to enrich uranium at its Fordo facility or conduct nuclear research there, and will convert the complex into a science research center. Iran will ship all of its spent fuel from the Hebraic reactor out of the country, and the facility will also be redesigned to support peaceful nuclear research research and radioisotope production. Kerry said that a final deal reached between P5+1 world powers and Iran would rely on proof, not on promises from Iran's government, and that sanctions relief would only be implemented if Iran abided by the outlined commitments. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif called the deal a win-win agreement. He later said the deal was designed to reassure anybody who had concerns that the Iranian nuclear program is peaceful. Still, he stressed that Iran would not be closing any of our facilities, something the proud Iranian people would not have accepted, and Iran would continue enriching uranium and would continue research and development. Turning to Israel's concerns over the Iranian nuclear issue, Obama said that the framework agreement provided the best option to ensure that Iran does not achieve nuclear weapon capabilities. Obama added, "If Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is looking for the most effective way to ensure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, this is the best option." Obama promised that he would speak to Netanyahu about the agreement and openly acknowledged that they don't agree on how to stop Iran, while telling Netanyahu that the New Deal was the most effective and best option. Israeli officials strongly disagreed. Israel officials slammed the framework agreement as a capitulation to Iranian dictates. They called it a bad framework that will lead to a bad and dangerous agreement. If finalized, it would make the world far more dangerous. The agreement constitutes international legitimacy of Iran's nuclear program, whose only purpose is to build a nuclear weapon. The official said, "This is a bad framework that will lead to a bad and dangerous deal," he said. "If an agreement is reached based upon the guidelines of this framework, that would be a historic mistake which will transform the world into a much more dangerous place. This deal kowtows to Iranian dictates and will not lead to a nuclear program for peaceful purposes, but rather to a military nuclear program." The Iranian official added, "The framework gives Iran's nuclear program the sole purpose of which to produce nuclear bombs, international legitimacy. Iran will still have extensive nuclear capabilities. It will continue to enrich uranium. It will continue its centrifuge research and development. It will not close even one of its nuclear facilities, including the underground facility at Fordo. This and more." The official added, "The bottom line is that this deal ensures the full removal of the sanctions against Iran's nuclear program while assuring that it will keep its nuclear capabilities. There is no demand that Iran stop its aggression in the region, its terrorism around the world, or its threats to destroy Israel, which has repeated again over the past several days," the official complained. "The alternative to a bad deal is not war, but a different deal," the official concluded, "one that will significantly dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure and will require Iran to stop its aggression and terrorism in the region and around the world." Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticized the agreement and Iran's intent in taking notice to recent statements by officials in Iran, notably their calls to eliminate Israel as evidence of Iran's unwillingness to compromise on its nuclear ambitions and campaign of terror, subjugation, and conquest. Netanyahu said it was a moral outrage to make an agreement with Iran while Iran continues to call for the destruction of Israel. Netanyahu said yesterday an Iranian general brazenly declared, and I quote, "Israel's destruction is non-negotiable, while giving Iran's murderous regime a clear path to a nuclear bomb is negotiable," he said. "This is unconscionable." Netanyahu argued that Iran's action and ongoing aggression across the Middle East proved that it did not intend to give up its nuclear and regional ambitions. Netanyahu said, "I agree with those who have said that Iran's claim that its nuclear program is only for peaceful purposes doesn't align with Iran's insistence on keeping underground nuclear facilities, advanced centrifuges, and a heavy water reactor." Netanyahu's reference to those who have said marked the second time in 2 days that he has referred to comments made by U.S. President Barack Obama at the Sabin Conference December 2013, without citing Obama by name. Netanyahu added, "Nor does it align with Iran's insistence on developing intercontinental ballistic missiles and its refusal to come clean with the International Atomic Energy Agency on its past weaponization efforts. At the same time, Iran is accelerating its campaign of terror, subjugation, and conquest throughout the region, most recently in Yemen," he continued. "After the Beirut-Damascus-Baghdad axis, Iran is maneuvering from the south to take over the entire Middle East, Netanyahu said. While world powers convene to sign this deal, Iran's proxies in Yemen are conquering large swaths of land in an effort to overtake the Bab al-Mandab Straits so that they can change the balance of power in shipping oil, Netanyahu said. Furthermore, Netanyahu said that he has spoken with Republican leaders in the U.S. Senate and conveyed our serious concern regarding the arrangement with Iran at the nuclear talks. This agreement confirms all of our fears and even exceeds them, he said. Some Israeli officials dismissed celebration of a nuclear framework deal between the world major powers and Iran, calling it detached from reality, and vowed to continue lobbying to prevent a bad final agreement. Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Yuval Steinitz said in a statement after the announcement of an agreement in Switzerland, "The smiles from this agreement are detached from a wretched reality in which Iran refuses to make any concessions on the nuclear issue and continues to threaten Israel and all other countries in the Middle East. We will continue with our efforts to explain and persuade the world in hopes of preventing a bad final agreement." Israel Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon said the nuclear deal would be nothing less than a tragedy. He added, "One does not have to be an intelligence agency member to know that Iran is lying without blinking, that today it is the biggest danger to the stability of the Middle East and the entire world." Ya'alon said that the Iranian appetite to export the revolution through terrorism will only get bigger, and with the seal of approval it receives as a legitimate state, that is a touching distance away from being nuclear. The danger to the West and its allies in the Middle East will be enormous. Centrist Yesh Atid leader Yair Lapid noted, on the Iranian nuclear issue, there was no opposition and coalition against it in Israel. We are all concerned that the Iranians will circumvent the deal and Israel must protect its own security interests. The Ayatollah's regime has been peddling fraud and deception for years and progressing with its nuclear program. They will try from day one to cheat the international community as they have done in the past. Added Lapid, there is no basis to the determination that today Iran was prevented from attaining a nuclear weapon. Debka, an Israeli intelligence gathering website, gave the following assessment of the Iranian nuclear agreement. U.S. President Barack Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry promised that the nuclear deal to be signed with Iran will give the world powers a year's warning after Iran's breakout up to an operational nuclear bomb. Our nuclear experts explain why even that grim arithmetic does not do full justice to the advantages Iran has gained for its push to a nuclear weapon. Number one, because Iran is permitted to continue running up to 6,500 elderly IR-1 centrifuges for enriching uranium to a low 3.5% grade, even if it is permitted to keep only 500 kilos of its stock of 7.5 to 8 tons, Iran would still be able to build a bomb in 7 to 8 months, which is a lot faster than Obama and Kerry have promised. Number two, if Iran activates secret facilities undetected by U.S. intelligence, it can produce a larger quantity of enriched uranium and so shrink the time between breakout and bomb to 3 or at most 4 months, totally insufficient for the world powers to detect, step in, and abort the bomb's manufacture in view of the following considerations. That is, to obtain proof that Iran is cheating on its accord with the world powers, environmental samples would have to be obtained and tested in laboratories outside of Iran. Results would be available only after 2 months, further slashing the timeline for stopping Iran building a weapon. But that is not all. If Iran is shown by the first round of tests to be in violation of the accord in enriching uranium, well, that's going to conclude this week's report, where we shared with you the details of a framework agreement between the P5+1 world powers and Iran regarding its nuclear program. Until we do it again, Shalom in Yeshua the Messiah. Amen.